Hello and welcome back to Pittsburgh Vader. Right now I'm working on finishing this sill plate here. I'm going to keep sanding it down, maybe add another coat if it needs it just to get all the imperfections. I'm going to work on the trunk lid, getting all the gaps and everything to match. As you can see on the bottom, it's not exactly even, so I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on getting the latch and the other parts of this installed on the trunk so it's working. And I'm also just going to keep working on the bodywork on the back half of the car. The doors I'm not going to do right now just because I'm going to make sure I do them right. Don't want to mess them up. So I'm going to look into those a little more before I finish the doors. I figured out how to get that door handle on, so I'll show you how I end up doing that. And then I came over here and I'm going to start getting some of these trim pieces ready to be installed. So I added some of that glass filler on the little posts and I put some studs in the back. And that way I can just take these. These are for the sides over here. They go along here and then down. So I'm going to just, wherever the studs are, drill the holes. And then it'll slide in. I'll bolt it from the back. That way those aren't going anywhere. And then none of them fit perfectly. So there's little gaps everywhere. And I'm just going to start filling those in and getting everything on the back half of the car to fit and work correctly. And I'm just going to keep working on stuff like that in this video. I'll show you what I end up getting done. Alright, so I took it back off so I can show you exactly what I did. So there's this metal piece that goes in here that stops the handle from just coming out, and there's a screw hole there. Now on the inside, I'll get to the inside of the door real quick. So on the inside there is this. So on this side it fit fine, but over on the other side, far side where this needed to go in, there's a screw on the outside of it. So it's basically on the other side, it would be here, and this screw was not lining up with this hole because it wasn't in far enough. As you can see from the scratches, it would stop about right here. So we needed to either thin out the door or this. So what I did is I just took the sander and I sanded down over there as much as I could until I got to the point where this fit. And now that that's in, this just slides right in. You put the handle in right before this, and then it's just good to go, and no problems, works great. Alright, so I just did the first coat of filler on the sides here. I sanded it down and I'm probably going to add another coat and smooth everything out. I also drilled those holes for the trim piece on this one side. All the holes line up, and I used that fiberglass filler just to temporarily hold them in and make sure I'd get everything lined up. That way I didn't like fiberglass them in and then get stuck with them in a place that I can't move them around. So they're still, you can pull them out of those locations, but I just wanted to make sure that I got the holes in the right place and it was going to work before I permanently bonded those in. So now that I have them in the holes and make sure it all works, I'm going to actually take this back out and probably sand down the edges here, get out some of that filler, and leave the indentation for where the bolt goes. That way I can line it up and then use actual fiberglass strand and fiberglass those in there so there's no chance of those going anywhere. And then I'll be able to bolt those in from the other side and just put a nut on the back, and I should be fine with these. It's a little hard to tell because once again they're not bolted in, but if I just slide it in, there are like little gaps. This is fine. So all around here this is good. So I might not have to do that much body work on this one piece, but I'm also going to have to sand it down and make it all perfect, just like I'm going to do with the rest of it, and it should be fine. Also finished a little bit more on this side. I added a very, very thin coat of filler primer just to highlight some of the little imperfections. I don't know if the camera is going to focus on it, but you can see there's tiny little pinholes that I'm going to have to fill in, go back and do that. I put another coat of filler over this little seam in here, so I still have to sand that down, and I didn't sand down this lip yet. So I'm waiting to sand this down until I permanently mate the inside fender liner to the body, because if I get any extra fiberglass or anything out here, I don't want to have to redo it over the bodywork that I already finished. So I'm going to wait to do all the finishing on this part until I get that done. But for now, pretty smooth. Just going to keep finishing it and make sure everything is perfectly smooth before I go ahead to the next step. And you're not going to have to do all that bodywork and stuff all over the car. It's a little hard to tell on camera, but 90% of the kit is extremely smooth. I just hit most of the back half with 80 grit on the block, and it's very smooth. There's, from what I can tell, barely any little imperfections. So most of that is ready to just, you hit it down with the 80 grit, and then you should be able to just work your way up the grit. And if you need to fill anything in, you fill it in, then it should be good with primer without any big spots of filler. And for the trunk hinge, this is the bottom of the trunk. It lines up with part of the frame here, and you take this off of the Infinity and you make a mounting plate that goes here, and then this just holds up like this. Line it up until it's the right height, and then you put that little loop, the latch for it, up on the top of the trunk. So I made a template for it, but my cutoff wheel is broken, so I ordered a couple more online, and once they get here I'll be able to make the plate for this. It just has 2 holes. Screw it out and just bolt this onto the plate here, and then you can plug it back in to the G35 wiring, and it'll work just like the normal trunk should. And now that I figured out how to get that door handle and latch on, I'm going to come over to the driver's side door and do the same thing. I'm basically just going to do the exact same thing I did on the other side. Now that I know how to do it, this one should go a lot quicker. I'm not sure I'm going to get it done this weekend because it's already getting pretty late and I have school again, so I'm probably going to get this done halfway this weekend and then the rest next weekend. And I'll show you when they're done, but for now, it's the same as the other side. So if you want to see how I did the other side, granted, I didn't do it exactly correctly, and it's a lot of figuring it out. So just don't take what I say and what I do as like the way to do it. Just use it as maybe a guide, and you have to figure a lot of it out for yourself. So yeah, I'm just going to cut out these holes and then install the backing plate and all that kind of stuff, just like I did on the other side. And once they're installed, the door gap on the driver's side is actually a lot better than the passenger side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a paint stick, and they're, I think, 4 millimeters wide. So put some sandpaper around it and just sand it all down until it's exactly the width of the paint stick. And that should be good for this door gap. Do some finishing on the edges, and that should be fine. And on the other side, I think I'm going to have to fill in a little bit. So one method I found online is, I saw a few videos on it. They took that Duraglass filler and paint stick with 2 razor blades on the end, and they taped the back, put foam tape behind there so you didn't leak too much filler, and then you do the Duraglass over the whole front, and when it starts to dry up, you take the 2 razor blades on the end of the stick and you hold it up against the body line you want to replicate, so in this case the actual car, and you run it along the end, and it'll make a perfect panel gap. And then whenever it's completely dry, you grab the end of it and you just peel it out, So I'll show me doing that, but that's what I'm going to do for the other side. This side just needs touched up a little bit to make it perfect. So I'm going to hopefully get this stuff done in the next couple of weeks and show you what it turns out and looks like. Alright, so I have a ton of dust and stuff on the floor from sanding, and the garage is starting to get a little messy again. So what I'm going to do is, for the rest of the weekend, the time I have that I'm here, I'm going to do what I can to clean up so I have more room to work and I'm not laying in dust and stuff. So next video, what I hope to do is get the door latch and handle installed on the other door, and then I want to put the car back up on the quick jacks and take the rear wheels off. That way I can do the fiberglass for the fender liners, and then I'll be doing the rubberized undercoat under all of that and getting those ready. So the back half of the car is, that's pretty much the last thing that's going to be holding the back half of the car on, at least the way I did it. So I'm going to get that done, start cleaning up, and then you'll see the next video. So as always, thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next one.